God, where were we?
Woohoo! We're back, everyone. We're live. I said my computer took a crap. I really apologize, but we'll get back. I don't know what point we were at last because my computer crapped out for like 5 or 6 minutes. Who is speaking last on the panel?
I'm honestly not entirely sure.
Well, we'll leave it with Next, and we'll let him take over while I get things sorted out. We are back now. All right.
Let's see what I got one for George. I'm sure we'll come to the whole war business later on. When and if, sorry, I should say if and when do you think Grey Worm is going to die?
You know, I really think there's like the curse of this may as well be a horror movie. If you have sex when you've never had sex before in this, you die. That's just what's going to happen. So somewhere in the attack on Casterly Rock, he's going to be dead. I really think that's the way that Game of Thrones has been playing with us and yanking at our heartstrings. And once again, you know, we got to see that intimate moment, and it was a non-paid for, consensual, loving moment between two characters. And the moment that happens, they're going to rip it out from under us. And I think somewhere in Casterly Rock, either Tyrion is going to be trying to or Grey Worm is going to try to defend Tyrion against someone killing him, and take a hit for him or something like that. And that's what we're going to see is that unfortunately he's going to die. Either this, I don't know what the timing on that's going to be, because I'm not sure exactly when the attack's going to take place, but it's going to be this episode or next.
I'm going to jump in just real quick, just because I missed a few, and then I'll get Gemma. I do believe that that's what we call the kiss of death. That's used in movies and stuff like that. You would usually, when some sort of character achieves some sort of form of happiness that's had some sort of tragic story arc, and then they just die right after that, pretty much. So I agree with George. Go ahead, Gemma.
Sorry, I lost my mute button there. I've found it now. It's all good. Yeah, I'm with you. That's the trope, isn't it? He's got some, essentially, and and again, I said this last Monday. We haven't actually had a death so far that we care about, to be quite frank. We haven't had a death that's carried any weight. We've had House Frey and we've had the Sand Snakes, and nobody really cared. Well, we cheered for the Freys. We were possibly indifferent at best at the Sand Snakes because they monumentally messed up those. So yeah, we really need a death that actually carries some weight now. We need one that we care about, unfortunately, because we know what we're watching, right? So I fully expect it to be Grey Worm, and soon, yeah.
We're gonna have to have some deaths this season, right? I mean, Grey Worm is kind of. He's close to Danny.
Grey Worm has to be lined up. I'm sorry, he does. Like George was saying, you know, what they did with that scene is give him context to die. They gave him the context of why he should now die. There was nothing else, you know, that was needed in that little scene between him and Missandei, other than to basically say we can now actually give a reason as to why Grey Worm can lose a fight. You know. Because something's going to come on his mind, you know. Like I said, whether he maybe tries to jump in and be the hero, or whether it's because he just can't focus anymore.
Isn't that what he basically said? He said he never had a fear before, and now he has a fear, right? You know, he's a changed character. This is his changed moment.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with that. I mean, we spoke about the themes of last episode, that we had fear and love. And how ice and fire were reflected on multiple levels. We had obviously family, which was something that we see a lot of time, which we talk about a lot of the time, family and how important that is. But Gemma, you said you had a point that you wanted to go to, and a talking point that we could all talk about.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what haven't we covered so far, and we've left something really gross and peely out, haven't we? So far, something that somebody actually contacted me on Twitter this morning and said, just for the lols, can you change your name on Twitter to Secrets of the Citadel, just for a couple of days for a laugh, you know? And I said, lol, haha, no. So, anywho, that I mean, are they just going to get more and more disgusting each week, or do you think we're done with that? I think we're going to see Sam in every episode this season.
Well, I think, looking obviously where the story's going, season 7 could potentially be their last to drop any of this kind of humor into the show, because let's say end of the season, wall falls, and it's literally the face off that we've all been waiting for. There's going to be no time for these little kind of humor cameos, these little kind of these little skits with Sam, for example. Everything's going to be so serious that you can't really ruin that with some of the kind of the jokes. And yeah, I think they've set up a theme, definitely. 2 out of 2. I think if they go for a 3 out of 3, then we have to expect some sort of little kind of jokey scene like that from Sam potentially every single episode. I think I would love that as well, that they would run with something like that, because I was kind of like in this kind of mixture of emotion when that scene was on. I was kind of like really laughing, and at the same time I was kind of watching through kind of closed eyes a little bit. It was so gross, but at the same time, like, just the way Sam and Jorah played it, it was like Jorah was kind of quietly screaming while Sam was like just hacking away. Like it was done perfectly, to be honest. But the moment it switched to the pie, it was like, oh, come on.
There's nothing more reassuring than a dubious medical professional telling you to shh when he's trying to and that, yeah, like you said, that cut to the pie, the best transition I've seen on television for a long time.
I nominate Sam to be a junior member of the Bolton House. So
savage. That like his whole chest, like his whole breast, like skin off the breast, like right off a chicken breast. That's just gone. But it was so gross though. There was like mucus and pus, and like you can see how like the grayscale had like bonded to the skin. Oh, I'm gonna bottle call again. This isn't gonna work today, is it? It's a lot though. All right, well, you guys take over again.
All right, I've got another one. So we can come back to the disgusting Citadel. But this is kind of linked to Sam and what a lot of us have speculated on what he might discover. And Lyanna. I think we need to go there. We've seen the statue now, haven't we, in the crypts. John was obviously looking at Ned's statue, which was a wow, an amazing moment. That statue was so good. To get any kind of R plus L equals J, are we going to get any kind of expansion on this? Because we have the revelation, what seems like forever ago now, and we've barely seen Bran. Sam hasn't seemed to have come across anything. All these things that we speculated. I know we're only 2 episodes in, right? But go down. Oh, if it does at all, what do you think, George? You haven't said anything for a while.
No, I didn't really have anything to say about it. That's why. For once. Ask me a different question.
Well, George, you said that we're going to have 3 or 4 major things discovered by Samuel, right?
You're breaking up.
He said that maybe whether we'll have 2 or 3 major things found by Sam.
Oh, without a doubt. I think Sam is George R. R. Martin in the story. He's his physical representation within the books and the show. He's the character who is bookish and wants to hide away, but ultimately has the solution for all sorts of stuff, which is a routine character that we see in George R. R. Martin's works. So we've already seen him come up with the grayscale. We've seen him send the message to Jon about the obsidian on Dragonstone. And now we're probably going to see a third thing, which I'll be willing to bet is the legitimization of Jon as the son of Rhaegar Targaryen. So those are 3 things I'm seeing from Sam.
Yeah, I think one of the good things about what we saw from the Citadel in the last episode is obviously everyone who reads the books know a bit more than what we've seen so far on the TV show, because actually what we've seen so far on the TV show is season 7, and then when Sam first turned up there. And so for anyone who was watching that the first time, one of the biggest things to take from that was actually how there are a lot more answers at the Citadel than people realize, but they're being kept hidden. They're being kept secret by the Maesters. We saw how they have the cure for grayscale. They know what it is, but all they've done is actually, banned the practice of treating it through, being dangerous. And you can understand the reason why they do that, to stop the spread of infection. But it obviously makes you wonder, what else do they have there? We've seen the odd few little passages talking about the long night. And I'm telling you, they do. Of course they have the answers there. It's just whether Sam is going to keep up his little thieving kind of, charade that he's having to do. And is he going to steal the answers? And is that why he leaves? He does another Heartsbane, grabs 1 or 2 books that he knows he needs, and books tail.
Well, while you're on Heartsbane, I'll just quickly do a bit of a reverse here. We've seen Randall Tarley, right? I know the timelines often overlap. So, there is a good chance that Cersei was getting her house into order, Sam doing his time at the Citadel. But we can assume that Sam's been there a while. Why isn't Randall romping off over to Old Town to get his sword back? What's up with that? I mean, they can't just ignore that, right?
A great...
We've lost your sound again, Nex.
No, I think this harkens back to something you did recently, Gemma. The timeline within the show is so screwed up. Even George R. R. Martin, in writing the books, he tried to separate them out into separate things, and he's tried to make it to seem all take place in one dynamic, or not dynamic, but one linear work, and it simply does not. All of the time is totally off. We see baby Sam grow very slowly, then up all of a sudden. We know that Sam is in Old Town, but for really how long, we have an idea, and people travel almost instantaneously across hundreds and hundreds of miles. So there is an issue of time within this show that's just causing problems. How long was Sam really at the Citadel? Every time we saw him change the bathrooms out, as it were, was that simply one day? He may have only been there a week at this point, maybe 2 weeks, for all we know. But it totally changes everything that's going on. He's put himself in the right spot, and if it happens over the course of a couple of weeks, that's what happens. If it happens over the course of a couple months, which is probably more likely, that's weird in the timeline, but at least it works within the scope of the show.
Yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at with all that. I think these aren't happening in a linear fashion, we from one scene to the next. I think these are all overlapping, and I think Randall was possibly at King's Landing maybe before Sam was receiving information about Dragonglass, and these are all sort of going on at the same time, because there are things that Cersei knows about other areas in Westeros. Mind you, she seems to know everything at the moment, which is a bit bizarre. But yeah, and then there's information that's then being received by other houses, and so it's all going on. But is Randall coming for Heartsbane? Ultimately, at some point, eventually, timelines aside, is he going to go back to Old Town?
He would have to know where Sam went first.
Well, I mean, Sam told him, didn't he?
I think he said he was, but he still doesn't know. And I think the Randall got called down to King's Landing. This is, again, that timing issue. He got called down to King's Landing prior to anything else going on. So he may have wanted to go after the sword, but he also got and remember, he is very in tune with upholding his oath to his king or queen. So he got called to King's Landing, and he had to go. So
yeah, I absolutely agree with that 100%. You don't ignore a call from Queen Cersei, do you, under any circumstances? Next, what do you think? Is he going to go to the Citadel and crash the place and storm in and demand his sword back? Okay, so now next volume's gone as well. We're 2 men down, George. It's just me and you. What do you want to talk about? Should we talk about your mustache or?
Listen. That's just fun for you.
What is going on? Oh, Kyle, do you want to try? Give it a try. See if you're back.
What a rock and roll all night.
Yay, that's good.
And party every day. Okay, I'm back. Am I back? Is this sound good?
Take your stream back.
I'm taking it back. I've got the power. Okay, I will stop singing because next. Can we hear you now, baby?
I don't know, man. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we got next. The power is back. The Night King is not warging our computer devices or fucking necromantically killing our computer devices. All right, Gemma, where were we? I was not paying attention because I was super focused on trying to get this to work.
Wow, Kyle. Just wow. We were talking about Heartsbane and Randall Tarley and Cersei, and we've already talked about Sam. I think we've pretty much covered everything. Should we all go home now?
About Rickon and Dickon?
Yeah. So my question essentially was, is Randall Tarley at some point going to be demanding his sword back?
Yeah. So what I was going to say was, I think the scene with him and Jaime was actually very, very important for people to understand Randall's character, that he is one of the most, honorable men in the sense of he really does try and honor his oaths and the things that he, the promises that he makes. And one thing, he was saying to Jaime was obviously that, he isn't from a house that kind of backstabs people and this, that, and the other. I think he might want to go to the Citadel and storm it and get his sword back, but I think he will hold a respect for the Order of the Maesters. That doesn't mean to say necessarily that he won't want to try and go to Winterfell if he ever hears that Sam has left the Citadel. But I don't think they're going to go down that route. I think Randall's going to meet his end before it comes into the question of how can he get Heartsbane back.
I'm in complete agreement with next year. I think that Randall's going to be dragon food. Field of Fire 2.0 is going to happen. If he wants that Warden of the South title, he's going to have to work for it a little bit. And if he's going to join Cersei in battle, then he's completely freaking screwed, man. I see him getting eaten by a dragon, or his forces getting completely decimated by dragon fire. Go ahead, George.
Yeah, no, I think I put out Deadpool a minute ago, and I think Randall and Rickon are both on it for the next 2 episodes. They're not going to make it past. I don't know how long the show is going to take for them to do what they're going to need to do. Yep, exactly. I don't know how long it's going to take for them to do what they need to do, but after Highgarden, I don't see them lasting. The whole Lannister plan, everything is going to fall apart, and I think they're just part of that at this point. The moment he broke, you can see it in his eye. He became overly ambitious. That's the moment that he's getting written out of the show. The moment he said, "Yeah, I guess I will break my treaty with Olenna and everyone and the rest of them," he's now done. He's going to die.
Kyle, how do you think the wars between Dany and Cersei is going to go down over the course of the season?
Well, I think that Cersei, we can say that Cersei won the first one because of Euron, right? So the second one is going to be Dany here. Dany, I mean, Dothraki, and she's going to be forced to use the Dothraki now, right? I mean, her plan is foiled. So I think that she's going to use the Dothraki, and she's gonna take Olenna's advice. She's going to use the dragons. She's going to show a force of power. She's going to wipe out most of the Lannister forces, and then they're going to be at 1-1. The score is tied 1-1. So they're both going to go back to the drawing board as to where they go from there. We know that usually wars, sometimes they're more than just a one-day thing. They're planned out over years or months, or sometimes there was decades of war going on for specific houses and countries and stuff like that. So I think that, Daenerys is going to win the next one, and then we got to kind of go from there. But I think that, certainly Cersei has less assets than Daenerys. The dragons account for a lot more than whatever she has, period. So I think that, yeah.
George, what about you?
I don't think so. I think it's all going.
For Cersei, do you think it's just downhill for Cersei?
She's reaching for. if she's about to make a deal with Euron Greyjoy, knowing who he is and all of, she's been in and out of the small council for years. She's heard of Euron. She knows that he's the crazy one who got kicked out of the Iron Isles. She's about to cut a deal with him. Even though he's bringing stuff to the table, she's about to cut a deal with him in order to potentially get back at who? She has nothing of her own at this point. If Jaime just got the Tarleys on their side, that is the bulk of their army. That's it. It's the Tarleys. It's what's left of her Casterly Rock forces, and now it's the Ironborn. So she's just cutting deals with literally the devil in order to try and hold on to what she has, because she is the queen of Ash at this point.
And what about you, Gemma?
Yeah, I think House Tarly's going to kind of echo House Gardner, how they were extinguished in the Field of Fire the first time round. Obviously, we've still got Sam to carry on the Tarly name, which is so ironic considering what Randall did to make sure Sam didn't carry on his family name. And I know Sam's going to be a maester, but he's got Gilly, he's got baby Sam. Cersei, well, they've got to make something of those scorpion bolts, don't they? I got the impression that wasn't just one that they have, that was the example that he was showing her. I fully expect to see a legion of these on the front row, and I've seen the memes about zigzagging dragons and things like that. I don't know. Cersei, she's not a prince that was promised. She hasn't got dragons. She doesn't have the magical elements that surround, say, Jon with his resurrection and everything, or Daenerys with her being reborn. She doesn't have any of that, but she just keeps coming back. She's like that cat that you try and get rid of, and then it's there again. And she's not going down that easy. I don't see it. She's still got more in her left. She just keeps coming back. She did the walk of shame, and that was surely the end of her. That was her lowest moment. And the second she got back into the Red Keep, there was the Mountain, or so Robert Strong, or whatever they're calling him now, and it was immediately, how do we get revenge? How do I crush my enemies? And you don't cross Cersei Lannister lightly, and I still think she's got a significant role to play in all of this.
Quick question, and I'll come on to my points on that. Is, have you all heard about the title for episode 4?
Spoils of War?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I need to capitalize on what Gemma just said there, because I think that is exactly how things are going to go down. Martin, he's come out a lot of the time and said how, he loves the character of Cersei. And obviously, like with most writers, you set your characters up that you love, not just to die, but also for kind of amazing comebacks, like Jem said there. Cersei was at the lowest of the low. Who thought that within the space of one season, she would then actually be the queen of Westeros? Now, I'm a big chess player, and I love strategic battles of how things are going to play out. And one thing I'd want to say is do you really think that Jaime and Cersei will fully defend Casterly Rock, when we already know by Tywin's own admission that that the gold mines have dried up, right? We know Dany's not there to kill its civilians, and as far as geographically where Casterly Rock is, it's on the other side of Westeros. Sending the Lannister army out to go and defend Casterly Rock would actually put the capital in an extremely vulnerable position. So how about this for a chess move? We know that Tyrion says the line, they know we're coming. So they know they're attacking Casterly Rock. How about you just kind of garrison the castles with archers to maximize the casualties of an attacking unsullied force, let them take Casterly Rock, whilst you actually send your main army to go and smoke the Reach. And then in the next episode, when you're talking about the spoils of war, who got the spoils of war? The people that took the Reach, or the people that took Casterly Rock? And it actually turns out to be a round 2 win again
for Cersei. And all of a sudden, things aren't looking so good for Daenerys, especially if Grey Worm dies fighting for Castle Rock, which turns out to be worthless now. By the way, second up on that is by, looking at Jaime and Cersei, they haven't had any interest on returning to Castle Rock for over 2 decades. Why are they going to defend it now other than for a little bit of Lannister pride? But then again, in Lannister, true Cersei Lannister words, we are the only Lannisters that count. They don't care about Castle Rock. And the best play, if you want to, safeguard the reach and safeguard the true resources of the realm, let Daenerys take her army to Castle Rock, waste their time taking that rock that's not really worth anything, economically or geographically, while they take the reach.
That would be crazy too, because aren't we going to see? Isn't Tycho Nestoris rumored to be in this season as well? The Iron Bank.
Yeah.
So we heard Tywin say they're the shadow government, basically behind the scenes. Gemma or George, you want to take this one next? I feel like Gemma wants to eat this one alive.
I'm basically my heart is with the books. Now I'm resisting being triggered here because the whole Casterly Rock's mines being run out. So I think I will rant. I will rant at this point, and anybody who's read the books knows why. It's not a change I can get on board with. It's not a change that makes any sense. This is basic economics. This is issues of hyperinflation. This is issues of inflation. It just doesn't work like that. The Westerlands is the size of England. They're not running out. I'm triggered. I'm triggered. I can't go there because I'll just spend, what have we got, the next 20 minutes ranting. So I think, George, you need to take over on this one.
Ruh-roh. Go ahead, George.
Well, I mean, you're looking at a couple different things. I mean, Tyrion's looking at his family, right? And he has his brother and he has his sister. And as much as, he wants to see his sister die, he wants his brother to live. And what are we going to run into with that? Well, like Nex was saying, Casterly Rock, in a way, is worthless. However, it is their family seat. So if he's able to take that, everyone believes it to be impregnable, right? So if he takes that safety net away from his brother and sister, they have nowhere else to retreat. And we know that King's Landing is very takeable by any other means, right? So if he has Dragonstone, if he has Casterly Rock, and probably he's going to have Storm's End by the next episode or two of the show, the only place that Cersei has left is going to be King's Landing. And if for some reason she teams up with Euron, they can go back to Pike, but who cares, right? Let them have it. So that the dragons, however many there are going to be, whichever one she's going to be able to use, can totally wipe out King's Landing. We've seen that before in the history of Westeros, where I'm spacing on his name, and his two sisters came in and totally took the place over. It's a done deal. Once that Casterly Rock option is gone for Cersei to run to, there's nothing else that she can do.
It's a great point. They won't be able to retreat, so therefore their backup plans all involve King's Landing. But I mean, who knows? Cersei's pretty resourceful, but I think she's actually going to be content with locking herself in there like Mad King Aerys at some point. Next, you want to clean this one up?
Yeah, I think what this is slowly becoming is actually a race for who is going to become the Mad Queen first. Because on one hand, you got Cersei being pinned in all different corners, all different angles, doing anything she can, making alliances with anyone who she can, to cling on to power, to survive, true Cersei style. And on the other hand, I feel like I sense Daenerys' camp slowly starting to fall apart a little bit. There was that massive tension with her and Varys right at the start of episode 2. And there were times where, even though she's backed Tyrion up, she also equally was dismissive of him in front of everyone. She's already lost Yara and Ilaria, I don't think there's much time left for Olenna. And if Grey Worm does die, then you're kind of back to this Varys, Tyrion, and Daenerys camp, which is a pretty small camp in the end after that. And I think, as you know, if Daenerys does suffer a few kind of bad beats, I think we're going to see this mood of hers continue to darken. And I think it really will become a race of who will become the Mad Queen first. Will Cersei take kind of inspiration for what the Mad King, did back in the day, or will Daenerys follow in the footsteps of her father?
There. I mean, how many times is Aerys mentioned last episode? Was it 3 or 4 times? He was mentioned a lot last episode. So it was quite a few, and I felt when Cersei was trying to propagate the idea that Daenerys would destroy all of Westeros with her army and stuff like that, and she wasn't wrong. If she used the Dothraki, it would be way worse with her dragons. But obviously, we know that Euron won the battle, so now Cersei's going to look like she was right because of of how she got Euron in there and destroyed Daenerys and Tyrion's plan. So it's really interesting. I personally think it's going to be Cersei. I think because Jaime is going to end up being the Valonqar eventually, and it's going to be like history repeating itself, him having to do that again.
Not Jaime. It's not Jaime.
It's not Euron Greyjoy, I'll tell you that much.
Look, I can tell you the story right now.
I will make a bet that it's not Euron Greyjoy. Right?
I think
I will make a bet, not Jaime.
They're teasing the idea of Mad Queens, and everyone loves the idea of it, right? But I think they're just going to fight each other to a standstill. I think they're going to fight each other to a standstill. In the end, Jon's going to try and get everyone to be like, as with Davos's line, we can all fight over whose skeleton sits on the Iron Throne. I think everyone's going to say, all right, we're going to go with Jon, especially, Dany definitely is in the end. And I think Cersei is going to be the one to turn around and remain for the throne. At this point, when everyone's faced with the army of the dead and the White Walkers, the only 2 people, because let's assume Littlefinger dies, the only 2 people who will actually be interested in the 7 Kingdoms in terms of ruling it will be Euron and Cersei. And if Jaime abandons her, make fucking pathway for Euron to just completely kick her out.
Oh God! Oh God! I want to make a bet. I want to make a bet. A sock eating bet. Go ahead, Gemma.
I feel like I'm at school again, only this time I'm not the teacher. I've got my hand up. I think it will be Jaime, and I think it will be a mercy kill because he will have to wrap his hand around her pale white WIGHT throat.
Oh God! Oh God! What are we created, man?
Euron is playing.
No. Okay, here's a Jaime prediction. Now, I don't think this one's going to happen, but I'm going to throw this one out anyway. I think what you're going to see is Cersei's going to think that she's playing the game right, and when everyone comes back with the white and everything, they're all going to say, we have to do something else. Everybody's going to start heading out, and she's going to try to stab everyone in the back because that's how she plays. And her brother is going to kill her right then and there. Just be like, we're not doing this again. I'm not having you wipe out the last best chance for all of humanity in doing this. And that's when he's going to kill her. If he kills her, if Jaime kills her, that's going to be the moment.
So, George, you're saying that Jaime is going to do this? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying if he does it. If he does it, that's the moment.
Saying it's Jaime. It's 3-1 on the panel against 3-1. Jaime to Euron.
The logic of the story, which is basically the only way Jaime will kill Cersei is if he's triggered by something that will bring that on, which is what George exactly said, that she attempts to wipe out man's best chance of survival, or she does do the whole Mad Queen route and goes to burn King's Landing to the ground. In which case, obviously, yes, that's the only circumstance it will be Jaime. But I think Cersei will gladly let everyone walk away. And like I said, Euron is playing Cersei. When he turned up and she said, "Why are you here?" and he proceeds with this story of, ever since I was a young boy, I wanted to marry the most beautiful woman in all of Westeros. Hang on a minute, bro. You're talking less than a few episodes ago. You wanted to go and give your big cock to fucking the Dragon Queen. So now he's on the shores of King's Landing saying that he wants to marry the most beautiful woman. No, he's playing them for a fool. He knows what he wants. Theon even called it. He turned around and he said that once he's got what he wants, he'll kill her, just as he would have done with you. And that's exactly, I'm telling you now. And then the perfect setup that when he was backing out and he's like, and I've got two perfectly good hands. And he kind of looks over at Jaime, and Jaime gives that look back at him as to say, like, that's a dig at Jaime. And also, I definitely think that's a foreshadowing that he will be the Volunteer. Everyone's going to turn their back on King's Landing because Cersei's not going to play ball. Once everyone's gone, like I said, Euron's just going to turn around and be like, who's here to protect you now? Who is here to protect you now?
I'm willing to make a spicy bet next for a Funko Pop for each other's channel. All right. We will make a bet. How about this? One Funko Pop, the winner. It doesn't. We won't go over $25 because that we're both not rich. I know that, but we will make a bet for a Funko Pop. Jaime Lannister is the Valonqar. You think that Euron Greyjoy is the Valonqar?
Euron Greyjoy is the Valonqar.
All right, everybody has seen this bet. It's live. Remember, next when I win, I'm gonna like that maybe the Night Queen Funko Pop if that ever comes out.
Let me bring you back just by the way to the one thing I was talking about before, and like I said, this goes to do with the whole logic of story, right? If Euron wasn't brought back to kill Cersei, why is he brought back? Why is he in the story? Tell me. Tell me why
he's an agent of chaos, like Littlefinger. He's an agent of chaos.
They could have left him out till now. Why is he back? What is his purpose? They left out many key players. He's also
going to be the catalyst for Theon becoming Theon the latecomer, who's going to become the king of the Iron Islands. Yes, you heard it here. We got to let George go. Oh, George is shaking his head. George, chime in.
He's not going to become the king of the Iron Islands. Everyone knows that the Valonqar is Arya, and she's going to wear Jaime's face to strangle the Mad Queen. And the reason they say, I said this before, I'm going to say it again. You're going to see her hand come up, and then you're going to see another good hand come up, because when she puts on the face, she won't be able to fake the fact that she only has one hand. So both hands are going to come up, and Jaime, and then we're going to realize that's actually Arya.
Joe takes on height as well, though, doesn't it? And the voice.
Yeah.
So why not the hand too, right?
You know. Someone did ask me.
That does beg the other question: is when she switched over to being Walder Frey, did she really switch over to being Walder Frey? If you know what I mean.
Oh my God, George, you're triggering me right now, man. Here's like a plot hole thingy. How the hell did she mimic Walder Frey's voice? Like, do the Faceless Men have like old school like medieval voice recorders, and they can be like Walder Frey, Frey pie? You know what I mean? Like that she can just do that. Like I don't know. I mean, how does that happen? How do they mimic these voices? Is it a perception thing where people are like, "Oh, that sounds like Walder Frey"? Oh my God!
The books pretty plainly stated that there are three kinds of faceless men. They're the guys who try to use makeup. There are guys who have a little bit of a better power, a glamour that they can use to cover something up, the same way that like Rattleshirt was glamored. And then there are the special ones who can truly take on the face and appearance and everything else of their target or whoever's face it is. And we know now that Arya is one of those special ones.
So she's got all three then. Gemma, I see you stewing over there, stewing like a bowl of brown. Get your voice out.
I've been looking at the chat a lot, actually. Yeah, the impression, I mean, because in the books they take on the memories as well, don't they, of the person? You know, they get so much. So I really like George's idea.
Which is why when the Waif is now taking over Arya, we all really believe it.
Can I just say, George, thank you for being our chat moderator. You guys probably appreciate, when we've got a few hundred people in the chat, it goes fast. We have a lot of questions and things that come up. George, he's in there all the time. We do speak to George like on a daily basis privately, and yeah, we are geeky enough that pretty much 99% of all of our conversations is Game of Thrones stuff. So George does know our opinions, he knows our theories, he knows what we're interested in, he knows what our favorite characters are. So I personally am quite happy to have George answer for me in the chat, and if we don't get round to on the stream, at least we know we've got George doing that in the chat. So everybody give loads of love hearts for our George in the chat, please. I'd like to see that.
And George
Kyle.
also is also our resident tinfoil master, for those who do not know. Sorry, what were you going to say to me, Gemma? I was being distracted. I was enamored by George's former Euron beard, kind of Euron beard.
I was just laying on the fields to George, and now I can see we were on a little bit of a delay, so now I can see all the love hearts coming through and the fire and oh, that's lovely. Look at the love, George. He's blushing. He's blushing.
So you know what's really awesome is I want to shout out everyone in the chat this year. Thank you so much for being in with us. We had like 260 people earlier, then the stream crashed, and then we still have 210 people that came back. So that's pretty awesome that the fact that you guys all came back and were like, oh, Kyle's computer just sucks tonight and we're not going to come back. So thank you everyone for coming back, and actually because we have an awesome guest tonight, I would feel super terrible that if we weren't able to get it back up when we next is what it's like 1 in the morning for you guys, 2 in the morning for you guys over there. So
yes, 2 a.m.
So thank you so much for that. Do we want to take a few questions before we give her, because people are starting to spam carrots in the chat and it's starting to get me concerned. I don't know what that
let's
means.
go with some questions, guys.
Us little birds don't scare easy. I love that. All right, let's take some questions. Here we go. Here's one for you next. Who will kill Euron, and what season will we see it?
I tell you what, season 8, and Theon. I think Theon will kill Euron. One thing that I've always said and backed Theon is you got to remember is, one, he grew up in a castle. He grew up in a castle with the likes of Jon Snow and Robb Stark, and he had the same training available to him that they did. We know in the books that his speciality is, archery. We've seen him in the show. They've kind of shown hints of that. But one thing I loved in the sea battle was actually he was slaying it right up until the moment Euron called the little Theon. He was slaying it up on there. He was kind of just going from guy to guy, and in fact, and for a split second, when Theon looked up at Euron calling him, he had this look on his face like he was ready. He was ready for a fight. But it's only at the sight of the torture that brought back the memories. The tongues being cut out. I think that's what got to him. I think if that wasn't happening, we might have seen Theon really fucking step up. And I think he's going to go on this arc. I think he's going to go back and meet Jon Snow. Jon Snow's going to spare him because he did save Sansa. He might have caused a lot of shit, but he did a small bit of redemption there. And I think a time's going to come back when, like I said, they're not going to kill Yara. They're not going to kill Yara because he would have done it by now. I think he's going to play with her. He's going to use her for public entertainment to send that message. And one thing I know that obviously George does, we know he loves his Greek mythology. And I think he's took a small element out of the story of Troy with how Achilles was killed. That in the end, none of the greatest warriors in the world took him down. It was actually just the Prince Archer, who was a master archer. And I think Theon's going to do the same thing. I think Theon's going to seize the opportunity with a bow and arrow. And until then, this is what I'm saying. I think Euron's going to come out looking untouchable. I think he will seize the throne temporarily. But when it comes to, they're not just going to forget about Yara. And when it comes to taking her out and getting her back, I think Theon will kill his uncle. That's the only way, in my mind, he can truly redeem himself. And after everything that Theon's been through, I think he deserves a little bit of redemption.
I agree. I think that it could be something similar that goes down. I mean, in the books, I don't know. Theon's pretty far gone, like physically. Like he's missing fingers and he's got gray hair and he's in pretty bad shape. So I don't know if that'll happen in the books. But I think that he's going to have a redemptive arc in both situations. Gemma or George?
I don't agree. I don't know. Maybe Game of Thrones has left me jaded and cynical. I think there is a very real chance that we will never see the redemptive arc from Theon that we desperately want. I want to see it, but it would just be tragic and devastating if that never happened. Like I said, I mean, and my, it's not that I don't want it. I do very much, but I know this is George R.R. Martin. This is Game of Thrones, and you know, not everybody's getting a happy ending here. If you think this story has a happy ending, you haven't been paying attention.
George?
You know, I think this might be one of those bittersweet moments where, kind of like what Gemma was just saying, he might be on his way to the redemptive arc. We may see him about to save someone or something really great happen for him, and he just gets a spear right through his back from random fighter B, you know, and he just goes down, and he's going to reach and try and just not make it. We all want him to succeed. We all want him to redeem himself, but ultimately, this is a tragedy. This is not a comedy, and I use those in the Greek terms, not in the loose American or loose Western value that we look on them in the modern way. But I think that we will see as many of our heroes or potential redemptive arcs fail as much as we want them to, and we'll have to just be joyful in the fact that they tried, even though they did not succeed.
So, final thoughts. Do we all think that Theon's going to have a redemptive arc? I do. Gemma says no. Next says yes. George, you say
yes,
fine.
But fail.
Fail.
We'll see him try. Like he'll try to save Sansa or something like that again, and die with a random spear through his neck while trying to do it.
All right. Let's get another question here. Wow, this is a crazy one. Undead Direwolf Nymeria kills Arya. Best day ever? I don't think that would be the best day ever. But well, actually, here's a good one. Will we get Undead Summer this season with the Night King? Will we get an Undead Direwolf?
Maybe. I mean, if we did, I think it would just be a little bit of an Easter egg. I think what we need in terms of context of what kind of things like that we're going to see from the Night King's army is things that are kind of, I remember the first time I saw the Giants on the show, you know, when Jon Snow goes into Mance Rayder's camp, and it was like, yo, you know, like crazy things do exist, you know, like beyond the wall. And I think we need that again. I think we're missing that a little bit, this kind of shock factor of like, holy shit, you know, and that's why I'm so desperate for the Isle of the Faces to come into play, because I just want to be shocked again. And we want a new location, somewhere we've never seen before. And the same thing goes with the characters as well. You know, like, I feel like once you start going down the road of, can you see a white this and a white that and a white that, you know, let's just answer the question now. Anything and anyone can come back as a white if you're not burnt. Simple as that.
If you're not alive, the Night King can deal with you.
Yeah, I think that essentially Nix is completely on the money there. I think logically we should see that, but it seems that they can't afford to put in live direwolves, so I don't think it's likely we're going to see an undead one. Although apparently they did film a scene with Ghost that should have been in last week's episode, and they cut it out. Which,
yeah, they've got to
so
say
that they can't even argue. Yeah, they can't even argue for CGI budget constraint. I mean, do you know how much money they now have to spend on this thing? I think it's not a CGI budget issue. I think it's a wolf behavior issue. I've actually met Summer and Greywind, the real direwolves in real life. I don't know if I ever mentioned that. I think I might have mentioned that I stroked Greywind. I didn't mention that, George. Well, yeah, when I went to Northern Ireland, you all know that story. And they were beautifully behaved, absolutely beautifully behaved. When I met them, they were sat there, they let people pet them. So I'm not sure, but I mean, I've seen a lot of news reports where they've said that they don't behave in the way that they would like them to, you know, don't work with children or animals, I suppose. So I think we should see them, but we probably won't.
It would kill me to see. Oh my god, it would kill me to see an undead direwolf, guys. I don't know if I could handle it.
Well, it's like with Hodor, right? I mean, the question is, who do you want your Easter egg to be? A white Summer or a white Hodor? Which one's going to get the biggest reaction? I think we all know.
Oh, it's going to be a direwolf.
No, a white Hodor, man.
It's going to be Hodor.
It's going to be. Come on, everybody knows it. Okay, I'll put the bet out. Does anyone want to take it? We will see Zombie Hodor.
We know. Come on, it's got to.
I'm with you. Zombie Hodor all the way. Zombie Hodor.
I'm gonna.
You know what? I wonder whether they'll even get him to say Hodor just one final time.
We're gonna have Next take over the stream for just a moment. Next, answer the next question.
Yeah, no worries, man. All right, so good question here. How many of the dragons do you think will die? So, George, you go with this one.
Well, within the context of the show, at least one this season, maybe. You know, I'm going to put out all three will die by the end of the series.
Yeah, I call that
all
too.
Three will die by the end of the series. One will die this season. The other two will die by the end of the series.
Yeah,
because
I'm exactly that.
Yeah, they're tied. They're tied to Dany, and maybe they are tied to the whole three heads of the dragon prophecy or whatever that might be. And as their head falls, just the same way that we saw the wolves kind of die with their owner, or die with their owner's spirit in terms of Sansa, I think we're going to see the same thing happen with the dragons.
Yeah, I think, you know, this talk about one, you know, dying at the end of the season. I think it wouldn't surprise me if one did actually die in the battles. You know, I mean, Qyburn's brought these weapons out that we've just seen now. I think that, again, you know, we're talking about shock factors that we're missing a little bit from Game of Thrones. That would certainly add a bit of a kind of a WTF moment if in the upcoming battles we saw one of the dragons get taken out clean with one of these weapons. That I know that, you know, that would leave a huge talking point, you know, following that episode. But yeah, no, I'm with George in general on this. I think all three by the end will die, for sure.
Yeah, there's not really much more I can add on that one. I think one, maybe two this season, but by the time all of this is said and done, there's very little chance of any dragons being left.
I don't think there's going to be any dragons or any direwolves left in the end. How about that?
Ghost. I'd like to see Ghost survive.
Yeah, Ghost would be cool, actually. I'll agree with you on that one, just so people don't kill me. I definitely hope that Ghost survives.
All right, how about, I mean, it's up to you, Carl, but I think maybe if we just take one more question. It's 2:05 here.
Yeah, no, we'll take one more question and then we'll end the stream. And we'll let Next pick again. It's Next taking over Azor Hype this evening.
All right, well, obviously the one that stood out for me is that we're not going to go for the full extent of this, but I'm going to manipulate this question. So the question I've put in the chat here was, can we expand on Bran possibly being the Night King? Now, don't let me loose on this because, Jesus Christ, we'll be here till 4 a.m. in the UK. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to manipulate the question one more time. I'm going to start with George. I've got to get George on this, which is, if Bran isn't the Night King, in what universe of the Game of Thrones that we occupy, why was the Night King able to touch Bran when he was in the vision?
See, that's kind of the big question. You know, we know that Bran is not just, you know, they're like different levels of green seers or magical people. There's the one level of the basic skin changer. There's the level of some like oral. We start going up through them. And the Three-Eyed Raven had a certain amount of power. He could go back in time and see things. Bran is the first one who can go back and affect things. He can be touched and he can touch things, or things can hear him. So, you know, is he ultimately the Night King? There's something going on, and I have to agree with you that there's something odd about that. Even either maybe, and what about this? What if the children of the forest, he's warged into whoever that person is, and the dragon glass is actually like what spikes his spirit there, like forces him to stay in that form for the entire time. So it is Bran in the sense that he's now not able to fly anymore, but he is stuck in that form as the Night King in the lands of Always Winter for all that time. So
yeah, well, because I'll be honest with you, I mean, I've already kind of thought of a small answer to the question, which is, if Bran isn't the Night King, and a few people that I've noticed in the chat there have said, you know, the same way the three-eyed raven could touch Bran, what are we saying then? That is the Night King also a green seer? Because that could be the only other possible answer, surely.
Yeah.
Well, he almost has to be, right?
Yeah, he's either from Stark descendant or at least First Men descendant. There's also the question of Blackwood blood, and is actually that part of the green seeing warg ability thing. I think he has very similar powers to Bran, and I think this is where this theory has stemmed from, because we're seeing those parallels and those similarities. I personally don't think Bran is the Night King, but I do think they are very heavily connected. There's a very good chance they are very, very distant blood relatives.
I think I really hope that we see a background for this guy. I don't know if we're going to see like, hey, this guy had a family and kids and stuff like that. I don't know if they'll make us empathize with whoever got made into the Night King. I'm of the belief that he made all the other White Walkers, and he's singularly special with the dragon glass in his chest, and he's the one. I mean, he's the only one that can raise the dead, right? So he's, like you said, next a green seer. Some believe it was Brandon of the Bloody Blade. He killed so many children of the forest that he turned the Blue Lake into the Red Lake. He killed so many children in the forest. They're like 2,000 or 3,000 or something like that. And the Blue Lake actually turned red. And some people believe that he was actually the son of Brandon the Builder or Garth the Green Hand. So that's really interesting. I'm thinking it's going to be something like that, where it's going to be Stark lineage. Next, I love your theory, homie. You know how much I think it's wildfire, but I don't think that Bran and the Night King can exist in the same timeline. I think there's going to be something crazy to do with time about it. I just don't think that they're the same person.
All right. Well, unless there's anything else you want to talk about, brother.
What I do want to talk about is I want to thank everyone so much for sticking around with us in the chat tonight. We still have 211 viewers, and I hate to end the stream, but we do have to make sure our guests are sound asleep in the UK. But I would really, really like to thank Next for coming on this evening. I think I speak for me, Gemma, and George. We really, really love having you on the channel, whether it's going to be on my channel or Gemma's channel. You're always welcome. And man, I'm excited to see this Ned Stark. Dude, I don't even know if I want to watch it.
Tuesday.
Oh my God, man! Next
scheduled upload for Tuesday. So
Next is dropping absolute fire, everyone. If you haven't checked out his channel, we didn't know he was coming on tonight, so I didn't get to put it in the description of this video, but it will be in the description of this video, so you can go link and click and hit the subscribe button and go to his channel. But he's dropping almost daily videos now for season 7, and you guys got to go check out his channel. But I'm gonna let everyone do their thing and say their piece, and then we'll say our goodbyes.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Thanks to Nex and George, as always. Thank you, of course, to each and every one of you in the chat. This is what Game of Thrones, I say this every time. I have this big gushy community thing that I say. You all know what I mean. I love being able to do this, being able to I literally have no one else in my life. I'm so sad. I need this, guys. So let's keep doing this. Let's keep talking Game of Thrones. Let's keep theorizing with the tinfoil and just enjoy it, guys. Because that's all that matters, right?
yeah, no, I'm straight up on what Gemma said there. I think you know, it doesn't matter how tinfoil someone's theory is. It doesn't matter where they want to go with something. It's, you know, think of it as an expansion on the story that we all love. And the best words is that enjoy it while it lasts. We will not get this for much longer. You know, the show ends just over a year. The books, a bit longer. But once those are finished, it's done. You know, it's done. So enjoy every theory you can hear. Enjoy every channel. Enjoy every bit of content, because, you know, we're all here doing this, guys, because we're just about as passionate about it as you. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. Everyone's entitled to their own theories.
Except for Sandor is the best character there is. That's
yeah.
But I agree with Dex.
I really want to say thank you, obviously, to the panel, Gemma, George, Kyle. Thank you to everyone in the chat. And now that I've got the webcam sorted, because that was the only reason why I've not been on, by the way, is I've not had a webcam. So now that I've got it, I'm down whenever. So, all right.
Woo, guys, did you hear that? We're going to abuse that. We're going to abuse Baby Ninja Nex is ready with his new webcam. And then we got my right-hand man, my homie, my amigo, my chum, George Satiano.
Everybody, thank you. Thank everyone in the chat. I love being able to be the sort of moderator and question answerer in there. You guys just bring a whole lot to this and make the whole prospect that much more fun. Gemma and Nex, of course, you guys are awesome, and thank you so much for staying up late at night to do this with us. I'm on the West Coast, so I'm 3 hours behind even Kyle. So I can't imagine doing this at 1 or 2 in the morning, but, you know, I totally would. And if you ever ask, I'll absolutely be there for you guys. But thank you so much. And Kyle, as always, thanks for putting this together. Let's keep doing what we're doing, and let's make this a great time and a great show.
We got 5 more weeks left in the season, and I think we'll probably, I mean, a week after that, people will still be super hyped, maybe for another few weeks after that. But like Nex said, let's try to enjoy this as much as possible. After these 5 episodes, there's only 6 after that, and we know the episodes are going to be longer. But yeah, let's all continue having a great time. Thank you so much to my panel this evening. Thank you to the 181 people who are still here listening to us sign off. And once again, we had a good time. Thank you through all the technical difficulties this evening, and we hope you all have a great Game of Thrones filled weekend. 7 blessings.